We were all relieved last week when we saw the good news that NASA astronauts Sunny Williams and Butch Wilmore splashed down to Earth after their 8-day mission to the International Space Station turned into 9 months up there.
It was a rare moment when the country all came together to celebrate their landing, where they were actually surrounded by a pod of dolphins.
Closing the distance there between... Oh, dolphin cam back again.
I seriously can't imagine how happy they are to be home and how relieved their loved ones must be to have them back on Earth. And during their time on the ISS, Williams actually set the record for the longest spacewalk performed by a female astronaut.
What's not so great is that the astronauts weren't paid overtime for being left in space, except for $5 extra a day for incidentals, and that's on top of their government salary of $152,000. So I'd be so pissed.
So that means they only get $1,400 extra for being stranded up there for 9 months, basically working 24/7. Can they sue?
I'm not sure they want to. Williams and Wilmore have told reporters that space is their happy place and just how much they love being up there. So maybe they really liked it or something.
See, this is Newsgirl's version of good news. It nets out positive, but we're not afraid to tell the whole story. There's no sugarcoating here.
We hope you can see where we're going with this, because here's another segment of
Not Awful News Roundup.
A new climate adaptive paint that changes color with the weather just hit the market. So it'll turn black, which absorbs heat when it's below 77 degrees, and white, which reflects heat when it's above 77 degrees.
That's so cool. Did you ever have mood rings growing up?
Oh my God, I loved them, but I'd always get annoyed because they'd always just turn green.
Well, it's the same principle as that, but it cuts down energy bills 20 to 30% because it better harnesses or reflects the sun's heat. And that's why most houses in Greece are white and houses in Scandinavia are black, but now there's an option for in-between climates.
And the paint formula can also be mixed with other tints. So if you want a blue house, it'll be a darker blue in the winter and a lighter blue in the summer. And that's cool because you can just think of houses changing color with the seasons.
Climate adaptive paint costs 3 to 5 times more than a standard gallon of paint, but you do make that back in energy savings. We are closer than ever to having male birth control. Scientists now say men might have options in as little as 5 to 10 years.
One potential option in the near future is a gel that inhibits sperm production. So you rub a gel into your shoulders, and in 4 to 12 weeks, your sperm count lowers enough to prevent pregnancy.
Didn't see the shoulder coming into it at all. Are there any negative impacts of lowering your hormones though?
I mean, not reportedly yet. The gel contains 2 components. So one is a synthetic hormone that blocks testosterone production, and then the other part of the gel adds back just enough testosterone to maintain a man's libido.
That is kind of crazy.
But before all the men freak out, you can stop using it, and then sperm production goes back to normal after 6 months, though it's important to note that you can't drink alcohol while using this.
Yeah, I feel that's going to be a little limiting. But there is also a promising non-hormonal option in trials right now. It targets an enzyme involved in sperm formation called STK33. Basically, it inhibits this enzyme from being produced, which then stops sperm from being produced.
Well, I hope they can reverse that.
Yes, it is fully reversible, and bonus, doesn't alter the size of the testes.
Researchers and volunteers gathered from around the world 2 weeks ago to back up federally funded studies that, as we all know, are slowly being deleted from government sites.
In the Preserving Public Health Data Hackathon, they save data from government websites so it's archived and republished in the event federal agencies try to remove it. Their goal is to stop the Trump administration from undermining research on everything from climate change to systemic racism.
And everyone in the room and over Zoom got a really quick crash course on how to identify at-risk information, collect it and store it, which is pretty cool. And they're not the only ones doing this kind of work. A group of archivists recreated a pre-inauguration version of the CDC website that's available in Europe at restoredcdc.org.
And if you want to join the fight to preserve this research, the Data Rescue Project lists dozens of ways people can get involved.
So this is a silver lining for people who've been afraid recently, because not all important research is disappearing forever. There are people that are doing good work to preserve this.
Great news if you're a school kid in Thailand, which does make up a huge portion of our audience. You can now choose your hairstyle.
Yes, so previously a 1975 directive stated that in school, boys had to have super short hair and girls had to have ear-length bobs.
That is rough. Very few people can pull off a bob.
Well, it looks like the Thailand Supreme Court agrees with you, because they annulled the rule after saying it violated individual freedoms protected by the Constitution.
And this all started after outcry from students who weren't allowed to have bangs or dye their hair, and they actually filed a petition that made its way all the way to the top court.
And schools can still individually have haircut rules, but this is a big shift for the official government position, and it's a big win for freedom of expression, which is so important, especially when you're a kid. Did you ever have like super short hair as a kid?
Yes, I did. Actually, I had like a boy cut until 4th grade because my hair would get so knotted and I had such a sensitive scalp that when my mom would brush it, I would literally scream. Like it hurt so much. So she was like, that's it. We are not doing this. We're just going to like cut it short and not deal with it. And then finally in middle school, she let me grow it out and I have like rebelled ever since. And I went to the extreme and now like I will keep it this way forever.
Yeah, understandable. For the first time in history, scientists were able to freeze light and transform it into a super solid, changing everything we know about the limits of physics.
So a super solid is a state of matter that behaves both as a solid and a fluid, which one, how is that even possible? And two, it's funny that a super solid is between solid and liquid. Like it sounds like it should be on the other side and be like insanely solid.
Extra solid. It's kind of a crazy discovery because we obviously always think of like this 3 states of matter: liquid, solids, and gases. But at temperatures close to 0, exotic phases of matter can appear. And so these scientists in Italy fired a laser at a specially made semiconductors, which made like photons, I guess, like jump around and eventually form the super solid.
I just don't get how light is frozen into anything. And like, if it's such a volatile, like complex process, what would we even use it for?
Well, apparently this will have a huge breakthrough in quantum computing and anything to do with like photonic devices like LEDs and lasers. And also it just kind of opens our mind to the fact that there's just like so much to explore if you can just kind of bend matter to your will.
Harvard announced that starting next fall, it will make tuition free for students from families making less than $200K.
And it's completely free for students from families making $100,000 or less. So the university would cover housing, health insurance, and travel costs.
I mean, that's a huge help. Undergraduate tuition at Harvard this year was more than $56,000, and the total cost of attendance was almost $83,000.
And Harvard said last week it wants to specifically entice middle-income families. And that makes sense. Like, we knew kids who couldn't afford these like huge expensive schools, but also didn't qualify for financial aid. So this really helps those specific kids.
Well, they might have been inspired by their neighbor because MIT pledged to do the same coverage.
Last month, a rocket from the Kennedy Space Center landed on the moon and played a song from, this is a throwback, Imagine Dragons called Children of the Sky.
Oh my gosh, Imagine Dragons. I have not thought about them since high school a cappella. But the mission wasn't entirely successful because the spacecraft landed in the wrong spot. So 2 antennas that were supposed to beam the song back to Earth are now broken.
But if it was successful, it would have been the first ever song to be broadcast from the moon. So maybe it's a good thing it didn't work out. Like, I don't really know if I want Children of the Sky to be the first song broadcast, though.
No, it definitely has to be something Taylor Swift.
All too well from the moon.
But at least Imagine Dragons will now have a song on the moon forever. They joined the likes of Elvis Presley, Jimi Hendrix, and Timbaland. So all the greats. Well, we hope this lifted your spirits.
Join us next week where we're talking about the Trump administration's security breach on an encrypted app.
Bye.